Right. Now we are very lucky at Winol to have strong links with professional journalists and organisations. ITV's lead anchor Alastair Stewart will be a familiar face to many of you, and this week Thomas Hobbs was in London to speak to him himself.
Not many can boast a 36-year career in television journalism, but then Winchester's own Alastair Stewart isn't just anybody. Broadcasting live to millions every day of the week, Alastair is the lead anchor for ITV News, and here at the multi-million-pound ITN TV studios, his workplace over the last 3 decades, Alastair gave us this exclusive interview.
What inspired you to start your career in the media?
A job offer is the absolutely honest answer. I'd been involved in student politics, and I appeared on the local ITV programme, which in those days was called Day by Day, went on to become Thames Valley News and whatever it is now, and was interviewed by a chap called Barry Westwood, who was one of the éminence grise of regional television. And funnily enough, it was because, believe it or not, I'd been attending a student meeting at what was King Alfred's College of Education, which is, of course, now the University of Winchester. And John Dennis was the guy who was running the student union then, and he got me onto the programme. And the editor of the programme, to cut a long story short, basically said, you know, you're a good communicator and you look all right on the screen and what have you. Would you like to do this? And I said, no, I'm going to be an MP, Chancellor of the Exchequer, and run the country. That was my ambition then. And it was my dad, bless his heart, who said, well, you know, why don't you give it a go and see how it works out? Maybe give it 6 months or so. And that was 36 years ago. So I didn't set out to be a journalist. That's the odd thing. But I was always very interested in current affairs and in politics. It was fantastic and it was terrifying because, as you say, we got the first one of the 3, but it was the first time it had ever been done. So the responsibility on my own shoulders personally, the shoulders of ITV and ITV News, what we call ITN nowadays, ITV News, to get it right was gargantuan, massive. I mean, not exaggerating. I could have screwed it up, ITV could have screwed it up, it could have failed as a programme, and that would not only have impacted upon my career and the standing of the station that's been good enough to employ me for all these years, it could have screwed up our politics. And I think we got it absolutely right, and the critics think we got it absolutely right, and we got 10 million people watching it. I think genuinely reflected ITV at its best. I mean, we can do dreadful programmes as well, and we do things. I look at Jeremy Kyle and I think, oh my God, I wish that wasn't on ITV. I look at the X Factor and Coronation Street and I think I'm so proud that they're on ITV as well as News at 10. And I mean, I think Clegg did a million times better than everybody had expected, because people didn't really know who he was, and he had to prove himself, but go more than that, and he certainly did go more than that. And I think Gordon did a lot better than people had expected. He was technically very precise, he conducted a good debate, a bit like sort of, you know, Oxford-Cambridge Union, you know, those very smart white-tie debates, and I thought he did it quite brilliantly. The one who really surprised me, and I know personally best because David used to work at Carlton within ITV family, was David. And within a couple of minutes I thought, he doesn't know where he is or why he's here or what the strategy is, and if there is a strategy, it's the wrong strategy, because David is very bright, great communicator, and Gordon is very bright but not a great communicator, and Nick was a kind of unknown quantity. Nick stormed it, Gordon did a lot better than expected, and David completely screwed it up. By the third debate, David knew what he was about and finally won it. And maybe that's, you know, maybe that's a good thing. If you're like a boxer, there's no point in winning the first round if you're going to have your jaw broken in the 13th round. Better to do it the other way around. This was the first time that millions of people could watch on television these 3 guys who wanted to be Prime Minister and make their own minds up. And at the other end of the scale is Lockerbie and the Shuttle Challenger, where these were just extraordinary tragedies. One was an act of international terrorism, one was a technical cock-up, but you're trying to guide people gently through something which is emotionally soul-destroying. When you're doing it, there's something deep down in your mind and psyche that tells you this matters, don't screw it up, don't muck about. But you don't think before you utter each word, is it, as you know, le mot juste, the absolutely right word. It's in your DNA. And if it's not in your DNA, you shouldn't be doing it. And so some of the cleverest men and women in my business are the ones who say, yes, you're going to be an anchor, and no, you're not. I work very hard, and it's a very stressful existence, but I love it, and I love every minute of it.
And Thomas is with us in the studio now. So, Tom, what was it like interviewing someone who's at the top of an industry that you want to go into?
Obviously, for any student journalist, it's very inspirational to interview someone like Alastair, who's been at the top of the TV journalism now for a good 3 decades. So yeah, it was a good experience. He's from just outside the Winchester area, so we had that in common straight away. But yeah, it was a great experience.
So what was the actual experience of being in an ITV studio? It must have been amazing.
Yeah, it's a multi-million-pound TV studio. It was great seeing all these top journalists at work, during their working hours. But it was good to see like even the presenters had their own desks. Alastair actually writes portions of the news himself, so everybody chips in, and yeah, it was a very good experience for me.
Ian, what did you think of the interview?
I thought it was excellent, Tom, and one of the best things about it was, obviously it was very interesting, but the best thing about it really is that you showed the enterprise to go and get it. You actually bothered to email him whatever you did, bang on his door, and he responded, which just shows that if you ask these people, you sometimes do get. A lot of the time you won't, but unless you ask, you certainly won't get it. So I think that's a really good example for everyone. What I wanted to ask you, Tom, was where that photo of Alastair Stewart as a student came in.
Well, Alastair was kind enough to supply me with some photos, old and new.
I think you got yourself a bit of an exclusive there with that.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing him in his student days when he had some hair.
That's great. No, well done.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't stop there with the celebrities. Never mind the Buzzcock star, Phil Jupitus was in Winchester this week to promote his new book. Our very own Joey Lipscomb caught up with him to get this exclusive feature interview.